You're listening to the Fatboy Show on RX Radio, hoping you're having a beautiful day. Wow, did you just get back from an overseas trip and you landed at Entebbe Airport? Let me ask, were you asked to pay a bribe? There's been so much talk about some sort of extensive extortion scheme that's operating out of Entebbe International Airport. And this attracted a lot of excitement on social media last week, where people were posting videos of instances where they were being asked to pay money. Of course, we talked about that last week, Olive, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Apparently, it has led to a response from the Civil Aviation Authority and the airport authorities, who claim they have apprehended some of the culprits in this scandal. And, they're implementing some sort of reforms to ensure that this is mitigated. Now, speaking of the errant staff, at least those that have been suspected of engaging in these activities and were featured in some of these videos, they have been arrested, and disciplinary action has been taken against 24 others following this outcry. Now, the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority Director General Fred Bamwesigye said that the management will not turn a blind eye on any of their staff who have been involved in extortion of money from travelers, among many illegalities. So, are you excited by this development? Do you think they're just scratching the surface and that everything will go back to normal, as in there'll be more extortion?
Maybe not. Maybe this is the beginning to something better. Though when they say that they will not turn a blind eye, my question is, where have you been? Because this is not the first time I'm hearing about such accusations against Entebbe Airport staff.
You're right. And this is why, in Uganda, we have this thing, we call it performative outrage, where whenever it's trendy for everyone to get angry about something, we all take to social media and we express anger, thinking that we are doing our part to elicit change. But all that happens is you simply provoke a knee-jerk reaction or a face-saving ritual by the management of these institutions, who will come out, issue a statement, claim they're arresting people. And then after the dust settles, it's business as usual.
It's business as usual. People going onto social media to, levy accusations or to complain about certain things, that is okay. My issue is with the reactionary, comeback from those that are in charge. Like this, they are saying we have suspended 26 people or 24 people, but then what is going to happen after that? Are you going to ensure that we never hear about such stories ever again?
Well, they have reached out to the public and are asking people to report such instances. Mm-hmm. I saw a statement issued by the Civil Aviation Authority. I believe this came out yesterday. I saw this on Twitter. They said, "Dear our esteemed passengers, Uganda Civil Aviation Authority hereby requests you to immediately report any cases of extortion in exchange for favors at the airport, or even when you have left the airport. In case of any extortion at the airport, Uganda Civil Aviation Authority requests passengers to contact the following for assistance." And they give some numbers, including of the general manager of Entebbe International Airport.
That is a good stance. I remember an incident that Winnie Byanyima had in Davos when she was traveling for a certain conference, and then she was manhandled at one of the airports, and she complained. She took to Twitter, complained, and then the authorities actually got back to her. They apologized and dealt with the errant staff that manhandled her. So maybe if this is done according to the statement, maybe we may not see the same accusations that have been levied against the Entebbe Airport staff.
That's true. But you know me, Olive, I always like to look at both sides. And so while it's easy to castigate these officials at Entebbe Airport, I don't know to what extent we're taking responsibility for our own role in a lot of these instances. The reason why this culture of corruption persists is because these guys are used to being approached by people that are either in default of procedures or who are looking for shortcuts. And so they start to take it for granted that now if you want something from me, I should expect money. So people who, for example, check in late or don't have their full documents in order, or who are engaged in other things, maybe they have more luggage than they're willing to declare, things of that nature, for which they pay bribes in order to escape. Of course, these officials, they are going to start to think, hey, when I come to work, I should always expect money.
But then here's the thing. If someone approaches you for a favor and they are going to give you a bribe, it's different from you asking for a bribe from someone when you don't have to. When everything is in check, they have arrived early, and you still make trouble for them so that they end up being late for their flight.
Well, I mean, that's unfortunate. But again, I ask you this. What was your check-in time? Do you know you're supposed to check in 2 hours before your flight?
Yes, actually, lately it's supposed to be like 3 to 4 hours because of the works that are ongoing at the airport.
Now, a lot of people let's be honest now, a lot of people get to the airport late, within minutes of takeoff. And then they complain that they're being asked for money.
No, those ones are hypocrites. That is a totally different story. But I don't want us to take our eyes off what the staff at Entebbe Airport have been doing. For instance, I have a friend who said one time she was checking in, and then one officer looked at her documents and said, "You cannot board," and asked her to step aside. So she steps aside and then goes to another counter, and this officer checks her documents and then stamps, and she was ready to go. So she was like, to this day I wonder, why did the other guy stop me and then this one stamped my documents?
And that is why, you see, getting there early helps, because it can take into account elements of human error, especially if the errors are genuine. Like in this example,
I feel like you want to throw them
no, because based on your story, I did not hear you say she was asked for a bribe. I didn't hear that part.
No, but you see...
Was she?
No, normally this is how it starts. Someone is going to tell you to stand aside. You don't know why you've been told to stand aside. And then later, when you go back to them, they're like, okay, give me this amount of money for you to be able to proceed. Now, if that had been the case, maybe my friend would have paid the bribe so that she goes.
Yeah, but my point is, when you get there early, you give yourself enough time to rectify such misunderstandings should they arise. If it so arises, then at least you have time to seek a second opinion, to speak to a supervisor. You get what I'm saying? Because there will always be instances. I hope you're willing to grant at least that there are some times when there's people make mistakes.
No, I'm willing to grant that sometimes people are late, that sometimes people will offer to give bribe to an officer and then complain, but I don't want us to assume that every Ugandan that is complaining, every Ugandan that has had trouble with these officers has been late.
My point is, in almost all of the instances, we've only been hearing one side of the story. Isn't this correct?
So from where do you want to get the other side of the story? Why is the airport suspending its own if the other side of the story was actually innocent?
Because public outrage. And so that's why this is all you're seeing from Civil Aviation Authority. This is performative. In other words, it's for appearance's sake. Do you think about this? Not to be too cynical. Do you think they honestly care? This is just face saving.
They have to care.
It is a face saving measure. Because people are outraged, it's trending, and so they have to make a show of taking action.
Let me ask you, if someone came to you over your staff misbehaving in any, being unprofessional in any particular way, and you do an investigation internally and you find that they're innocent, would you suspend them to please the person that came to you?
Yeah, but my point is, is the action being taken before there's been an investigation? Because that's what it looks like. It looks like, just based on what's being seen in the videos, that they're taking action to appease the angry masses. Now, I can understand why they would do that in the short term. I'm just saying, but in the long run, how is that doing anything to solve any of the institutional problems?
In many organizations, if there has been, let's say in the banking world, if there has been a case of fraud, the staff is going to be suspended as investigations are carried on. And then the staff will be called for a disciplinary hearing. And when they are found guilty, they may either be fired or asked to pay the money.
Yeah,
this suspension makes sense.
Right. I guess the point I'm making is, and we've seen this a lot in, say, in the United States, where there's allegations of police brutality. So a clip shall go viral, which may show the final moments of an altercation, right? The final moments, which in those final moments, what we're seeing looks bad. And yet, when you look at the full video, or at least hear the other side of the story, it sort of puts things into better context, where it will either show that the victim, in fact, was the one in the wrong, or at best, they're both wrong. Do you see what I mean? And so that's all I call for is, it's one thing to say, oh, did you see that video where this happened? It's kind of like watching the video of where Chameleon is caning the border guy.
Mm-hmm.
Where people ask you, why is he beating him? But then when you hear that actually the border guy had first rammed into his car, you can at least understand the context behind it. And so for all of the stories of alleged extortion and bribery, I would like to see the flip side to the story, the other side to the story. Are you not curious to know?
Curious to know?
Or you're just happy to lynch these people just based on a one-sided narrative?
According to this story that you just shared with us, 3 were fired and 24 were suspended as investigations continue. So the flip side is what happens after the investigation. I can't ask to know the results because the investigation has just been launched.
Okay, so I guess let us wait to see the outcome of it. And please don't take this to imagine that I condone of this behavior. I guess I like to think of myself as being more realistic in these conversations about corruption. Because, much as I might want to decry corruption and how it's evil, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that whenever I've been stopped by a traffic cop and, some of my things aren't in order, that I haven't acted in a very Ugandan way to deal with the situation. We all have.
It is because
we all have.
It is because we are willing to even throw an olive branch to the Ugandan way that certain ills cannot leave our society.
Exactly, but aren't we all willing participants in this process?
So where do we start to stop it?
It starts with us.
Must we condone it?
It should start with no, but it should start with us. That's why I'm saying the problem will never get solved if all you're doing is looking for scapegoats, and yet really the rot starts from us, unless we fix that, nothing's going to change.
But you see, the other day I was saying if you have a DMC or a vehicle categorized as a DMC, it should not be on the road until it's fixed. And you were saying, oh, but I may be broke, I don't have money to buy brand new tires. How is it going to start from you yet?
Are you sitting here and claiming that you're holier than thou?
I'm not holier.
You're claiming that you're holier than thou.
Actually, you're accusing me of what you've just done. You were saying it starts from us to stop certain things. And yet last week when I was, suggesting on the things that we can start doing right, you were actually the one defending it. So
that's why
we're just going around in circles.
But have you noticed
when
that
you're affected, then you're like, oh, but you see,
but excuse me,
you know.
Have you noticed that in this entire discussion, and anytime we've discussed this issue, I've not really been too hard on these guys?
On the airport guys?
So I will comment on the controversy and the development surrounding it, the outrage expressed by people and how the authorities are reacting. I will talk about those things. But have you ever heard me say, damn, these guys, they're terrible?
No, this incident, but we have talked about other incidents where...
I'm not a hypocrite.
No, so I'm a hypocrite? Last week you were being a hypocrite. And today, because I'm not on your side, because I'm being hard on these guys, because my issue here is, if someone has their documents in order, why should you make trouble for them? I'm not talking about the people who are late. I'm not talking about people who willingly give the bribes because they know that it's their mistake. I'm talking about the people that have everything right and they are given trouble. Why should we look the other way?
I think that's why the way I look at it is, what can you do as an individual to mitigate the risk of that happening? There's a few things you can do. First, to make sure that all your things are in order. And failing that, to at least approach the situation in a practical way. I mentioned that you could get there early. Of course, if you get there close to takeoff time and maybe things are found to be not in order, or if there's queries and questions surrounding it, if you don't have that much time until takeoff, then you might miss your flight. But if you got there early and some guy's trying to give you a headache about it, you have time to go to the supervisor's office, speak to the manager,
sometimes I feel like you speak from a different kind of world.
I speak like a man from the streets.
No, you speak like an elite. You speak like a Ugandan with privileges.
Elite.
Because yes, it's an.
You're the one that's privileged.
No, it's you that sounds privileged.
And when I go to receive a service,
can I speak? Can I finish? You say that you can look for a supervisor. And I want to ask you, how many travelers even know what to do in that instance? Who to talk to, which office to go to?
Well, if you're that,
because do you expect every person that travels?
If you're that dense, you should not be traveling
out of the country.
So you're calling them
dense?
I'm saying if you
it's
don't
an
know,
airport.
excuse me, if you're incapable of identifying the process by which you can speak to a manager, should you really be traveling out of the country?
So who is now speaking like an elite? Who is now speaking with privileges? Because
excuse me, by the time I've refused.
Fatboy,
by the time you can afford,
listen, it is an airport.
By the time you can afford an air ticket,
many people.
Olive, by the time you can afford an air ticket.
Do you think everyone who travels actually has bought their own air tickets? Do you think that?
Well, you know what?
And
if you can't figure it out, please.
Going?
If you can't figure it out, stay in the village.
Not everyone that gets on the plane is
traveling.
educated.
You're going to get to the other side and get lost.
No, maybe they have someone
sense.
That is going to receive them at the airport.
Okay. Let me tell you
the assumption here is that everyone who travels actually is educated, knows who to
talk
to, knows who to approach. That's not the case.
This is the problem. I'm trying to keep it real. You're trying to be
holier
than thou.
I'm actually keeping it real because you think everyone who goes to an airport is educated like you. They know who to talk to. They know which office to go to. Not everyone is like you. That is keeping it real.
When I encounter a situation where a roadblock is placed in front of me, I normally look at it like this. I look at the guy or the lady and I'm like, okay, this person is trying to shake me down. How do I deal with this situation? Do I go look for someone that supersedes them in order to not have to deal with their BS? Or can I settle this in as quickly a way as possible and see what to do next? I mean, you have to be practical.
But that is you, the educated, exposed fat boy that has been to Europe.
You have to be educated. This is common sense.
And what I'm saying is, not everyone is gonna know what to do. Many people, you go to places as simple as schools, and you're gonna find a frustrated parent that cannot think that, oh, when I'm frustrated like this, I can actually access the headmaster. And you tell them, go to the headmaster, and they're
life, like, you have to be street smart. In life.
But not everyone is street smart.
You have to be.
That's what I'm saying. Not everyone is.
Because the only thing you're accomplishing by this, taking a holier than thou approach, moral castigation, all you're doing.
No, why are you labeling my stance? You have your stance, I have mine. Why are you saying I'm holier than thou? Why?
Because that's the contrast.
Because we do not agree.
That's the
because I have a different stance to this.
That's the contrast.
No.
That's the contrast. It's
okay,
like
fine. If I'm holier than thou, you are deliberately being ignorant.
Why not claim? I mean, is it bad to be holier than thou?
Right now, you're deliberately being ignorant because you're putting everyone in the same basket as you.
I'm trying to be real.
No, you're not being real.
Because the way
Ugandans unreal.
The way Ugandans operate is we go on social media, we thump our chests. And we morally castigate those who we feel have done wrong for however few minutes it's going to take for us to get it off of our chests. And after that, nothing changes.
But
do you understand?
How are you saying that nothing changes, yet 26 people were suspended? Is that nothing?
Yes.
You're already preempting that this is changing nothing.
So you think the rest who have remained are not going to do this?
But I'll tell you, no, there have been other changes. Only that you like to see only the dark part. You like to be a cynic.
I like to see the real part.
No, you like to be a cynic. But let me tell you, for every action, there is a reaction. This is the reaction. Now, we have to hope that probably things are going to get better. Otherwise, it's like you're suggesting we do nothing. Do you want us to do nothing?
No, I'm saying you be real and smart. That's it. Or at least that's what I would do. So that's my approach to it. Obviously, your approach is different, and I can respect that. But perhaps this will not be the last time we will hear of this incident, and time shall prove me right. And if that happens, you might finally agree that the way to navigate these murky waters is to be street smart. Keep listening to The Fatboy Show on RX Radio. Sarah's coming in shortly to tell us what's popping. Don't go anywhere.